Hey students, one of you asked about radians and degrees and converting between them and just understanding more what's going on with radians and degrees. And so we start with our good friend, the unit circle, like that. And just remembering that you start here due east. And so that's 0 degrees. It's also 0 radians. No surprises there. The full circle would be 2 pi radians, or 360 degrees. And why 2 pi? Because what we're talking about is the unit circle. We're talking about a circle where the radius is equal to 1. And if you think about the circumference of a circle is 2 pi times the radius. So 2 pi times 1 means a full circle is 2 pi. If you keep that in mind, you can get a lot of the other ones around the unit circle. Half of a circle would be half of 2 pi. Half of a circle would be half of 360. You can look at the unit circle to convert a lot of radians and degrees. So if you pull up a unit circle, you'll see that pi over 2 is 90, pi over 6 is 30 degrees, and you'll see all kinds of other ones. 5 pi over 4 is 225 degrees, for example. You may run across a situation where you need to convert angles that are not listed on the unit circle. So, for example, if you wanted to convert, say, what 1 degree is in radians, or vice versa, what is 1 radian in terms of degrees? And what I always like to do is to use this equation over here. We know that pi radians is equal to 180 degrees, and using that we can convert anything. Kind of like remembering if you have 12 inches is 1 foot, and you can use that relationship to convert. We're going to use pi radians is equal to 180 degrees. So here's an example. Let's say that I want to convert 90 degrees into radians. Okay, so how do I convert 90 degrees into radians? Well, I need to cancel out the degrees. And what I know is that pi is equal to 180. Let me take that over here for a second. If pi is equal to 180 degrees, I can divide both sides by 180 degrees, and I get this true statement. Pi divided by 180 degrees is 1. And why is 1 important? I can multiply by 1, and it doesn't change the value of what I'm multiplying. So I'm going to multiply 90 degrees times pi over 180 degrees. That's just a fancy way of writing 1. But having degrees on the top and on the bottom of the fraction cancels out. So I have 90 pi over 180, but 90 goes into 180 twice. So 1/2 pi, or pi over 2. I chose 90 degrees because that's something you can look up on the unit circle and see that it's really just the same process. So how do you convert from degrees to radians? You multiply by this version of the number 1 right there. Why do you multiply by that? Because that's going to cancel out the degrees and turn it into radians. There was nothing special about dividing by 180 degrees, however. I could have also divided both sides by pi, and I would get another version of the number 1. I could say that 180 degrees divided by pi is also equal to the number 1. And I'll use that for my other example. Let's say that I want to convert, a random number, 3 radians, and I want to convert that into degrees. I will take my 3 radians, and I will multiply that by 180 degrees over pi radians. It's really optional to write out the word RAD, but just to make it clear what's going on is that I'm canceling out those radians. 3 times 180 would be 540. So 540 divided by pi degrees. Whatever number that comes out to be. If you want to use a calculator to get a decimal, you are allowed to. So again, this video was just reviewing that radians and degrees are 2 ways of measuring angles. A full circle of degrees is 360. A full circle of radians is 2 pi. You can cut that in half to get our conversion equation. Pi is equal to 180 degrees. And you can divide by whatever measurement you're trying to convert to get a fancy version of the number 1 that you can multiply by. And so we did one example of converting degrees to radians and another example of converting radians to degrees. And that's it.